My name is Dr. Joseph Butler. I am a geriatric physician, and for decades I have worked closely with older adults and the families who love them. Every week, I sit across from sons, daughters, spouses, and caregivers who are doing everything they can to care for someone living with Alzheimer's disease or another form of dementia. And among all the questions they ask me, there is one that comes up again and again, often with tears in their eyes and exhaustion in their voices. Doctor, why does my loved one keep calling for their mother? When I sit with families in my clinic, there's one moment they describe that almost always breaks their voice. Sometimes it happens at night. Sometimes it happens in the middle of a calm afternoon. Sometimes it comes with tears, panic, or the kind of searching look that tells you your loved one is suddenly somewhere else in time. If you are living through this, I want you to hear me clearly. This is common in Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, and it is not a sign that you have failed. It is a sign that the brain is trying, imperfectly but powerfully, to reach for safety. In dementia care, we have a name for what families often witness in these moments. We call it time confusion or time shifting, when a person's inner experience places them in an earlier chapter of their life. Their emotional reality becomes stronger than the present moment. They may look at their adult daughter and feel, emotionally, like they are a frightened teenager again. They may stand in a home they've lived in for years and feel like they are in a childhood house that no longer exists. When they call for their mother, it is not always a literal request for one specific person. Very often, it is a request for what mother represents: safety, comfort, reassurance, and unconditional care. To understand why this happens, it helps to understand how Alzheimer's disease affects memory. Alzheimer's tends to damage the brain systems responsible for recent and detailed memories earlier than it damages older emotional memories. The ability to hold on to current facts, timelines, and recent events weakens first. Names, dates, and recent conversations slip away, but deeply rooted emotional memories, how it felt to be protected, soothed, and loved, can remain intact much longer. The emotional brain remembers long after the factual brain struggles. So even when a person cannot explain what they need, their emotions still know what they are searching for. That is why I encourage families to listen beneath the words. When you hear, "I want my mother," try to hear what the heart is saying. Often the message is, "I'm scared," or "I feel lost," or "I don't feel safe right now." In geriatric medicine, we understand many dementia behaviors as communication, not misbehavior. The brain is sending a signal. Calling for one's mother is often an emotional alarm, a deep, instinctive reach for attachment and security. One of the hardest lessons for families to accept is this. In that moment, the goal is usually not to force reality back into place. The goal is to reduce distress and preserve trust. Many caregivers instinctively try to correct the situation by saying, "Your mother passed away years ago." While this is factually true, for a brain affected by dementia, it can feel like hearing devastating news for the very first time, again and again. Each correction can reopen grief, panic, and confusion, as if the loss is happening all over. As a geriatrician, I've seen how repeated reality correction can unintentionally cause suffering. That's why I teach families a different approach. I call it connect first, then guide. Your first task is emotional connection, not factual accuracy. Slow your pace, lower your voice. Make your presence calm and steady. Sit at their level. Let your tone say, "You are not alone." The dementia brain processes information more slowly, and when it feels rushed or challenged, distress increases. After connection comes validation. Validation means acknowledging the emotion without arguing about the details. If your loved one says, "I want my mother," you can say, "You really miss her," or "You're feeling like you need her right now." You are not agreeing or disagreeing with facts. You are honoring the feeling. This simple step can dramatically reduce agitation because it tells the person, "I hear you. Your feelings matter." Once the emotion is validated, you can gently explore. You might ask, "Tell me about your mom," or "What did she do that made you feel better?" Often, these questions open a door into a calmer emotional space. The person may begin talking about childhood memories, familiar routines, or comforting moments. And suddenly, the urgency softens. Now you know what they are truly seeking: reassurance, warmth, familiarity. At that point, you can offer what they need directly. If they need reassurance, say, "You are safe. I'm here with you." If they need comfort, offer a blanket, a warm drink, a gentle touch, or a familiar prayer. If they need grounding, guide them to sit with you, breathe slowly, or look at something familiar. You are meeting the emotional need without triggering new confusion. Many caregivers ask me, "Doctor, is it wrong to avoid telling the truth?" I want to be very clear here. This is not about lying or disrespecting your loved one's dignity. It is about therapeutic communication, choosing words that reduce suffering rather than increase it. In dementia care, truth should never be used as a weapon. If repeating a painful fact only causes fresh grief and panic, compassion must come first. Redirection is another powerful tool. After validation, gently guide attention towards something soothing or familiar. Suggest sitting together, folding towels, listening to music, looking at photos, or having a cup of tea. This is not trickery. The dementia brain struggles with shifting attention, and gentle redirection helps move the nervous system out of alarm and back toward calm. Reminiscence can also be deeply comforting. If your loved one is emotionally living in the past, you can briefly join them there in a safe way. Talk about their mother with warmth. Ask about favorite memories. Share a familiar song or object from earlier years. Reminiscence does not mean getting stuck in the past. It means using familiar emotional pathways to restore peace. I also want to address something many caregivers feel, but rarely say out loud. When your loved one calls for their mother, it can hurt deeply. You may think, "Why don't they call for me?" I want you to understand this is not a measure of love or importance. Mother is often the earliest symbol of safety in the human brain. When fear rises and cognition falls, the brain reaches for its oldest anchor. This does not erase your role. In fact, you are often the one providing the comfort they need in that very moment. It is also important to consider physical triggers. Pain, infection, dehydration, constipation, hunger, fatigue, or poor sleep can worsen confusion and increase calling out behaviors. Sudden changes should always be discussed with a medical professional. Compassionate communication works best when physical discomfort is also addressed. If your loved one insists, "I need to go to my mother," avoid elaborate explanations or corrections. Instead, offer reassurance and a next step. Say something like, "We can't go right now, but I'm here with you," and then guide them to a calming activity. Simple, gentle responses are often the most effective. If they directly ask, "Is my mother dead?" your response should depend on their stage of dementia and how they typically react. Some individuals can process the truth with support. Others experience the grief as new every time. In those cases, repeating the loss can be traumatic. Returning to emotional validation and reassurance is often the kinder choice. I also want to speak to you, the caregiver. This journey is emotionally exhausting. It is okay to grieve, to feel overwhelmed, to feel invisible at times. Caring for someone with Alzheimer's requires not just patience, but compassion for yourself. You need support, rest, and understanding too. So when an Alzheimer's patient calls for their mother, remember this: they are not testing you. They are reaching for safety. Respond to the need beneath the words. Validate the emotion. Offer reassurance. Redirect gently. Preserve dignity. Love, in these moments, is not about correcting reality. It is about creating peace. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to become part of this community. Subscribe to the channel so we can continue walking this journey together. And if you feel comfortable, share in the comments. Has your loved one ever called for their mother? And how did it make you feel? Your experience may help someone else feel less alone.
Join us on Healthcare Seniors.
Be part of our community and watch the next video.